and operations on 1st April this year. Over the years, the Reserve Bank has established itself as a credible institution which stands for stability, trust, and economic progress. In recent years, it has become a pioneer in fostering innovation and technology in the financial system. Customer centricity and financial inclusion have always been its priorities. The Reserve Bank's tireless efforts towards maintaining a fine balance among price stability, financial stability, and external sector stability have paid rich dividends as the country embarks on a higher growth trajectory in the years to come. As India gains a pole position in the new global order, the contribution of the Reserve Bank is getting widely recognized both within and outside the country. The global economy continues to present a mixed picture. On the one hand, the odds of soft landing have increased, with inflation moving closer to the target and growth holding up better than expected in major advanced and emerging market economies. On the other hand, the ongoing wars and conflicts and the emergence of new flashpoints in different parts of the world, with disruptions in the Red Sea being the latest in the series, impart uncertainty to the global macroeconomic outlook. In this unsettled global environment, the Indian economy has performed remarkably well in the recent years. Growth is accelerating and outpacing most of the forecasts, while inflation is on a downward trajectory. At the current juncture, India's potential growth is propelled by structural drivers like improving physical infrastructure, development of world-class digital and payments technology, ease of doing business, enhanced labor force participation, and improved quality of fiscal spending. Our multi-pronged, proactive, and calibrated policies on the monetary, regulatory, and supervisory fronts have worked well to maintain and strengthen macroeconomic and financial stability. Let me now turn to the decisions and deliberations of the Monetary Policy Committee meeting, the Monetary Policy Committee, which met on 6th, 7th, and on the monetary, regulatory, and supervisory fronts have worked well to maintain and strengthen macroeconomic and financial stability. Let me now turn to the decisions and deliberations of the Monetary Policy Committee meeting, the Monetary Policy Committee, which met on 6th, 7th, and 8th of February, that is culminating today. After a detailed assessment of the evolving macroeconomic and financial developments and the outlook, the Monetary Policy Committee, that is MPC, decided by a 5-1 majority to keep the policy rate unchanged at 6.5%. Consequently, the standing deposit facility rate remains at 6.25%, and the marginal standing facility, that is MSF rate, and the bank rate at 6.75%. The MPC also decided by a majority of 5 out of 6 members to remain focused on withdrawal of accommodation to ensure that inflation progressively aligns with the target while supporting growth. I shall now briefly set out the rationale for these decisions. The momentum in domestic economic activity continues to be strong. Headline inflation, after moderating to 4.9% in October, rose to 5.7% in December 2023. This was primarily due to food inflation, mostly vegetables. The softening in core inflation, that is CPI inflation excluding food and fuel, continued across both goods and services, reflecting the cumulative impact of monetary policy actions as well as the significant softening in commodity prices. The uncertainties in food prices, however, continue to impinge on the trajectory of headline inflation. Taking into account this growth inflation dynamics and the fact that transmission of the cumulative 250 basis points policy rate hike is still underway, the MPC decided to keep the policy repo rate unchanged at 6.5%. The MPC will carefully monitor any signs of generalization of food price pressures which can fritter away the gains in easing of core inflation. Monetary policy must continue to be actively disinflationary to align inflation to the target of 4% on a durable basis. The MPC will remain resolute in this commitment. The MPC also decided to remain focused on withdrawal of accommodation to ensure fuller transmission and anchoring of inflation expectations. I now propose to provide an assessment of growth and inflation. Let me take up first global growth. Global growth is expected to remain steady in 2024 with heterogeneity across regions. Though global trade momentum remains weak, it is exhibiting signs of recovery and is likely to grow faster in 2024. I would like to mention that I am making several statements, and the supporting data for all the statements that I am making, all the sentences that I am reading out, the supporting data is provided in the footnotes. So therefore, those of you who are interested can refer to the footnotes for the backup data in support of whatever statements I am making here. So let me just restart so that there is continuity. Global growth is expected to remain steady in 2024 with heterogeneity across regions. Though global trade momentum remains weak, it is exhibiting signs of recovery and is likely to grow faster in 2024. Inflation has softened considerably and is expected to moderate further in 2024. Financial markets are volatile as market participants adjust their expectations on the timing and pace of rate cuts by major central banks, who in any case remain cautious against premature easing in their fight against inflation. Amidst the current headwinds, elevated level of public debt is raising serious concerns on macroeconomic stability in many countries. Now, this is a new point which I am just introducing, which I am talking about in this MPC, because this aspect, I think, is an important aspect and it will impact the future trajectory of global financial stability and global financial system. So therefore, this point I thought I must mention here as a part of the monetary policy statement. Now, amidst the current headwinds, elevated levels of public debt is raising serious concerns on macroeconomic stability in many countries, including some of the advanced economies. Global public debt to GDP ratio is projected to reach 100% by the end of this decade. The public debt levels in advanced economies, in fact, are much higher than those in the emerging market economies. The challenges of debt sustainability in an environment of high interest rates and low growth at the global level can become new sources of stress. Reducing debt burdens is necessary to create fiscal space for new investments in priority areas, including green transition. Now, in this context, so far as India is concerned, going by the budget which has now been presented, I think government is adhering to a path of fiscal consolidation, and as per the projections made by the International Monetary Fund also, India's that is general government, the debt of both central and state governments are expected to moderate in the years to come. This is just a point of information to put things in the context. Domestic growth. Domestic economic activity remains strong. The first advance estimates placed the real gross domestic product, that is real GDP growth, at 7.3% for 2023-24, that is for the current year, making this the third successive year of growth of above 7%. Going forward, The momentum of economic activity witnessed during the current year, that is 23-24, is expected to continue in the next financial year also, that is in 24-25. Agricultural activity is holding up well despite lower inflation, lower reservoir levels and delayed sowing. Rabi sowing has surpassed last year's level as well as the normal acreage. The allied sector is also expected to provide major support to agriculture with continued momentum in horticulture and fisheries. Industrial activity is gaining steam on the back of improving performance of manufacturing. The early results of corporates in the manufacturing sector remain upbeat, driven by higher profit margins. The Purchasing Managers Index, that is PMI for manufacturing, is displaying expansion along with strengthening of future activity index. Services sector activity is expected to remain resilient on the back of strong domestic demand and stable global prospects. The PMI services increased significantly in January, that is January this year, suggest.
नमस्कार, मैं हूं मानक गुप्ता। अगर आपको हमारा ये वीडियो पसंद आया हो तो इसे लाइक और शेयर जरूर करें और हां, हमें सब्सक्राइब और फॉलो करना ना भूलें ताकि आप देश और दुनिया की कोई खबर मिस ना करें। तो जुड़े रहिए हमारे साथ और देखते रहिए न्यूज़ 24।